welcome to our Changemakers weekly workshop. Joy is vital to our mission. 5 tools to cultivate it. So that's our theme today. Joy is vital to your mission and the 5 ways to cultivate that joy. So, we're going to talk today about why joy is so important, especially right now. And especially when you are a change maker, somebody trying to move the world in a good direction, in a positive, expansive direction. This is, this is a cornerstone of being a healthy, sustainable change maker. And so today we're going to talk about tactical ways to unleash more joy in your life and in the world, because the world so badly needs it right now. We're in such a fear place, in such a kind of contracted place. I think it's loosening up a little bit. People are sort of coming, above water again. But that's why we really need to sort of up our level of expansive energies that we reside in every day. And I can't think of a more potent energy than joy. And it gets sort of short shrift. It gets treated like this lightweight sort of emotion or energy that's can be left for the last thing on the agenda. And really, a strong, consistent joy practice will just bring everything in your life to another level. It'll bring your health to a new level, your connection to a new level, your productivity to a new level, your creativity to a new level. So, joy is quite a magical elixir, and we'll talk about why during the workshop. But what I really want to do as well is I want to give you some really tangible tools, tangible practices for starting to weave joy into your everyday life, even in physical distancing mode. Okay. So if you don't already know me, I'm Kimberly Carroll, and I am a coach for change makers, basically people who are trying to make a difference in the world, whether you're a mission driven entrepreneur, a healer, an activist, a leader who's trying to bring your community or your workplace in the right direction. I am here to help you with the inner shifts and the high performance habits and the strategies that'll kind of take it to the next level, empowering you and your mission. So, like I said, I'm so happy that you joined us for this workshop today. I think not only will it be helpful, but it's going to be fun. And last week's was very strategic and very tactical. Today, I really I want to immerse you in a feeling. I really want you to be able to leave this workshop feeling more joyful. In joy than you were coming in, for sure. So, I think what I'd like to do is start off with just a little check in, as I usually do with our workshops, just to get us all present and kind of ready to dive in so we can step out of the multitasking and the overstimulus, and we can be here and we can just really absorb. Okay. So, I'm going to ask you to close your eyes. Good. And let's just start with a nice, big, generous breath in. And doing some shoulder rolls backwards, making these shoulder rolls really big, really slow, and just feeling the joy of having mobility, of being able to move this body in this world, being able to feel, being able to touch, being able to sense. Good. And as we roll these shoulders backwards, the rain has started gently coming down on the roof. A quiet joy of mine as well. And now letting the shoulders relax back and down. And now what I'd like for you to do is I'd like for you to take your arms, and I'd like for you to just open the arms wide into like a nice big V shape, okay? And this is kind of like a body hack as far as joy goes. It's almost impossible not to feel expansive and joyful when you are opening your arms up, okay? It sends a signal to the brain that this is an expansive moment, that this is opening up to goodness. We don't open up the body unless it's to something good. So this is like just a little bit of a fast track to let the body know that there is good, there is some joy to be had, and we're opening up our arms to it. So breathing into that, pushing the chest forward and open a little bit, taking some big deep breaths into that. If you're just joining us, we're just getting present. We're just opening up a little bit before we dive into our content. And you can just, bend stretch one arm over to one side and then stretch one arm over to the other. Just really maybe shaking the body up a little bit, shaking out the face a little bit. Good. And just closing your eyes still. If you have opened them again, just keeping them closed. And then just noticing where you're at in terms of joy. Noticing if there's a lot of joy sort of flowing through you. Notice if there's just a sliver that just could be nurtured a little bit. Maybe you're feeling really flat. You're just not there at all. And that's okay. Just noticing with compassion. Bringing your hands to your heart now and just holding your heart for a second. And just feeling the beating of the heart. And also tuning into the awakening that's happening outside of your windows. This whole world coming alive again after hibernation. There is such momentum in the air right now. There is such life. So just see if you can connect to that, if you can breathe into that, the vividness, the vibrancy, the richness. And you don't need to do anything else but just reside in that. All right, let's take in a nice big breath and letting go with a big exhale. And you can open your eyes when you're ready. So, yeah, we're really lucky that spring is here. I mean, it's been a slow kind of hard spring. It hasn't come along easily where I am anyway. And so it's been a hard one, but it's here. It's unfolding itself a little bit, and please, you do everything you can. It's like this playground of quiet joy out there. And maybe not so quiet with the birds, but for that sort of low key joy that you can like just absorb into you. We're used to joy being this sort of disco ball, raucous kind of thing, but I find some of my deepest joys are quiet joys, like the rain on the window or like the magnolias blooming, things like that. Um, so if you have joined us, please say hi. Maybe just tell us where about spring is in your part of the world, and what you're enjoying the most about spring. Just in the comments, just to get us going. I like this to be a conversation, not just a listen shop, but a workshop. Okay. So pens and paper, make sure you have some pen and paper on hand, and you're cutting out all other distractions because we're digging in. Okay. Joy is in short supply right now, I'd say. I don't know, maybe you disagree, maybe you're seeing and experiencing a lot of joy, but it's just a tough time with the self-isolation, people's money worries. There's the disruption of plans and initiatives that are really meaningful to people that they've maybe had to either stop altogether, or they've had to really do a pivot on that has been discouraging. And a lot of people, most people, are really worried about our future. So, so it's not the most natural time for joy. But even when we're not in pandemic times, joy is a tough sell for change makers. As change makers, as people that are trying to make the world a little bit of a better place, we we feel like we have a lot on our shoulders, and we have usually some pretty lofty goals. And so that translates into very overwhelming task lists. It translates into feeling like a lot of beings are depending on you. A lot of things are depending on you, and when you sort of tune into that, you're like, I don't have time for joy. Like there is no time for joy. There are people starving, or there is a project that needs to get out there, or I'm not doing my part. So that is where a lot of us go wrong as change makers. I know for me, that was the case for many years. Joy was something that I, put on the list after everything else was checked off. And of course, everything doesn't ever get checked off. So joy never happens. Okay. Joy just never happens. It's not, if it's not high on the priority list, you're not going to get to it. And the tragic thing about that is joy is fuel for change makers and our missions, especially right now. That expansive and revitalizing energy that joy creates in us, that is the kind of energy that moves mountains. That is the kind of energy that makes us a sort of energy that other people are attracted to. And with other people come support, uh, followers, collaborations, donations, whatever you need for your mission. uh, when people are attracted to joyful energies, and with people come opportunities. So to not be cultivating that which makes us expansive and open hearted and juicy is really working at sort of at half your capacity in terms of making a difference in this world, of inspiring, of connecting, of moving mountains. So I know that we should also just talk about just generally joy as a person is just, it's an imperative. I mean, joy is incredibly healing physically. There's so many studies that talk about how laughter in particular increases energy, decreases pain, raises your immune system. It even cuts down on food cravings. Okay. And joyful activities, like I said, they create a more expansive, relaxed, connected, just healthy state. Again, that is really attractive and feels good. So what it does is it fuels us. It keeps us, you know, it keeps our energy solid, steady, and it opens us up to just so many more opportunities. So the problem is, though, and hopefully I've kind of convinced you a little bit that, joy is really imperative, okay, both as just a regular human being, but also as somebody trying to make a difference in the world. The next thing, though, is that then you think, okay, well, okay, sounds like it's important, but how the hell do I do joy? How do I do joy? Joy is hard if you're not used to joy, if you haven't been cultivating it regularly, it's really hard. So what I want to do is I want to talk about 5 ways to strengthen joy in your life. Okay. And again, in very accessible, sort of everyday ways. Now, let's get one thing straight. When I'm talking about joy, I'm not talking about Pollyanna, like everything is perfect. Um, I am the first one to tell you everything is not perfect, that this world is an aching world that desperately needs our help. And I definitely see so much suffering in this world. So it's not about being blind to what are the realities, and who is hurting, and what is hurting in this world. But it is a choice to, as a parallel sort of support system, to still open up and be expansive and cultivate the good. Okay. So not to ignore the bad, but to not make that like take over everything. Otherwise, what you focus on expands, but to also, really, really cultivate what is good, because that is what will fuel us. If we only concentrate on what is hard, bad, suffering, just hopeless, we will be a puddle on the floor. There's just we have nothing, no fuel to work with. Okay. So So basically, I think of joy as that state of being expansive and feeling full and at ease. Okay, that's my definition of joy. It doesn't have to be like this, woo, woo. It's just this state of open and full. Okay. So your definition of joy might be a little bit different. I'd love to hear what it is. I have some more people in the chat. I just want to say hi to. Hi, Carl. And Rochelle, hearing the birds chirping. Oh my God, they've been a lifeline for me too. Just, yeah, the birds don't give a shit. They're like, pandemic, whatever, it's spring, we're mating. So it's a, when you start getting overwhelmed, when the news gets to be too much, just listen for the birds, just to bring you back to the natural world that is staying, pretty steady right now for you. Okay, so the first step to I'm just gonna get a banner out here. The first step here to uh, cultivating joy is to raise the stakes on joy. So what I want you to do is grab that pen and paper right now, and just for a second, I want you to think back on the last week, and I want you to write down any moments that you remember that were truly joyful or pleasurable or delightful. Okay, let's just take a minute to do this. I just want to see where we're at on the joy scale right now. And it can be big things or it can be really small things. But moments from the last week that you recall that felt joyful for you. Okay, so let's just take a minute just to do that. And yeah, I mean, it could be anything. It could just be that a particularly, great cuddle with your kid. It could be this just amazing dinner you made. It could be just this passage in a book that you read. So just writing down anything that felt very joyful for you this past week. And what I want to find out is just in the comments, put how many moments you've been able to come up with. Okay, just how many moments you've been able to come up with. 10, 5, 2, none. Just put a number in the comments, so I just have a sense of where everybody's kind of been at in the cultivation of your joy in the last week. So often when I ask people this, I get a pretty low number. And considering the thousands of moments that are in our week, I'm always pretty astounded when I hear I can only think of a couple. That to me is worrisome. That speaks to a bigger problem that we've got going on in society. Well, Beth said seven. Seven's good. Seven's good. I mean, I'd love to see it at 70, but I didn't give you that much time to write. And so yeah, thousands of moments each week, and we can often only come up with a few. And so, Rochelle said 7 too. 7 is the lucky number here. I want you to hear this. As children, we laughed 100 times more than we do as adults. 100 times more. What happened? Where did we lose the joy? My theory is just that, our society is a producing kind of society. It's about proving your worth at every turn. And so what happens is the need to produce, impress, accomplish, moves higher and higher on the to-do list because that's what makes you acceptable as an adult. And joy gets moved lower and lower. And basically in this society, we treat joy as this bonus that we get after we have fed the kids, finished that report, gone to that protest, taken care of that, deadline, whatever. And we treat joy like it's the icing on the cake. And joy needs to be part of the cake, okay? Because again, our to-do lists these days are so unwieldy that often we're never going to get to that bonus. We're never going to get to that icing. So joy can't be something that you postpone until all the important things are accomplished. Joy is the way that those important things get accomplished. Okay, I believe deeply that joy nourishes us in a way that makes us so much more powerful, so much more expansive. It is the key, I think, to success and to a richer life that we're trying to get through all of these doing means. So I could tell you about this sort of power of joy until I'm blue in the face. But what I want to do is I want to take you through just a little experience of it yourself. Okay. So before we go into this very short visualization, I want you to think of a scenario, either from the recent past or one that happens to you regularly, where you get pretty upset or down, or heavy or angry. Okay, so again, if you're a change maker, it could have something to do with an area that you're working in, a project that you're trying to move forward, an issue that concerns you, a client that that you work with has been hard on you. So just and it doesn't have to be something directly around your work. It could just be something in life, a relationship that's been hard, just a situation that has caused you some distress. Okay, so got one. Okay, so I want you to close your eyes now, and I'm going to put a little bit of music on to help us along with this. Hopefully you are going to be able to hear this music. I'm going to lean into the mic a little bit. So closing your eyes if you haven't already. And I want you to bring that scenario up in your mind right now. That's very specific scenario that is causing you to feel upset or heavy or down. And I want you to make this as real as possible. Okay, so breathe into it. Let's get really into this. I want you to see where you are. Maybe look down at your feet and see what's beneath your feet here in this place. Taking a look at your surroundings. Noticing the temperature in this place. Noticing maybe any sounds. So really being in this scenario. What's happening? Notice how you're acting. Notice how you're holding your body. Or the expression on your face. Notice what this feeling is doing to you. And now suddenly, out of nowhere, a bunch of rescue puppies and kittens just run into this scenario. Okay, I want you to see them like just clumsily running and rolling over each other on their way to you. And this music that you're hearing, it's pumping into this whole scenario, this whole place that just a second ago was feeling so heavy, so hurting. It's all over the place. And the music pumping in this place, all of a sudden the raindrops, this refreshing rain starts to pour down in this place. And it doesn't matter that everything's getting wet. It's just something new. It's just washing away some of that energy. And you're in this place where you were just a second ago feeling so tight and so closed. And you open up your arms and you're just like, taking in the rain and twirling around. feeling the freshness on your face. And then you notice this great big bubble bath in the corner of this scenario. Oh yeah, bubble bath full of bubbles, super foamy. On the edge, there's this like really chilled glass of champagne or cold beer waiting for you. And you just jump into that pool of bubbly, warm water. Maybe a puppy or two jump in there with you. And then suddenly you hear out of nowhere there's been a cure for COVID. COVID-19 is no longer a worry. And suddenly there are your favorite people from everywhere starting to come into this scenario, and they're dancing and they've got their drinks and they're having this great old time. And there's all these like little rascally puppies and kittens all in the mix. Everybody's having a great fun time. And one of the funniest people you know is there. And they are just doing the bit that makes you laugh so hard. You're killing yourself. You think you might pee your pants for killing yourself so hard. Just breathe in that vibration of joy into those areas that were just a minute ago feeling that tightness, that pain, that exhaustion. Just letting the joy massage these tight and painful bits from the inside out. Feeling that sparkling joy spread to every cell. Imagine your body just opening up, smiling everywhere from your toes to your head, to your eyes, to your heart. Breathe that in. Ah. And giving yourself a little shake to come back to regular waking consciousness. Oh, I want some puppies here. Some rescue puppies. So tell me, I want to hear, how was that for you? You might not have at all been prepared for that, but what was it like when that scenario just got overrun by sort of joyful stuff? I want to just put in the comments what that experience was like for you, and sort of what happened to your body. Did that shift you at all? Just tell me, a little bit about whether you felt a shift. And you know what, folks, that was just envisioning a joyful scenario. So, how would it be if you were actively cultivating a little piece of that joy each day? So, yeah, let me know in the comments. Let me know what it was like, and whether the puppy scared the hell out of you or what. So now that I think I've done a lot to try to convince you about how powerful joy can be, how shifting joy can be, how important joy can be. Now the big question is, how do we do it? How do we cultivate it? Especially if we've gotten out of the practice of joy, what do we do? So I think before we sort of tackle that, number 2 in our sort of work around joy is to release what stops your joy. So we're going to identify, get really familiar with what stops your joy, and then we're going to try to sort of give a little cue to our brain that it's time to let that go. So what I'd like for you to do is grab your pen and paper, and I want to make a quick little list of the things that you feel are getting in the way of joy. Okay, so I'm talking about responsibilities that you feel you just have to take care of, or before you've convinced yourself you have to take care of before you can even touch joy. Whether that is a project that is really important, just regular living like paying bills and cleaning. Whether that has to do with taking care of others, being there for others. So let me know. Let write it down. Also habits that get in the way of joy. So just get your pen and paper out and start writing down what stops your joy. What is the excuse when you're kind of like, that would be kind of nice to do, or that would be joyful, or I should, could add a little bit of joy to this. What stops you? What's the message that comes in? Write it down. It could be just a habit that gets in the way of joy. Like worrying. Like right now, maybe you put all your energy towards worrying, and you're not making joy at all a priority because of that, because you're like, I gotta stay I've got to stay very vigilant and there's no room for joy. It could be just that you're overworking, that you just don't have, like, you don't allow any time, any extra time for joy. It could be that you're getting really like distracted by your gadgets, that you're just like every moment that you might have a free moment, you just go into consuming information instead of finding a way to connect to joy. Um, the habit of perfectionism is a joy killer. So just, I have to get it just right. If I'm going to have joy time, it's got to be just perfect. The stars need to align. Everybody has to be in the right mood, blah, blah, blah. So perfectionism might be getting in the way. Limiting messages. This is an important one, folks. What limiting messages do you have about joy that you might have gotten from your parents? You might have gotten from society in general. You might have gotten from friends or colleagues. Messages. Here's one. I haven't earned my joy. I haven't earned my joy yet. Or I don't know how to be joyful. Or joy is decadent. It's indulgent. Or joy is for naive people. Another message that comes up for a lot of people is, if I make time for joy, I'll stop achieving. That's one that scares a lot of people. So I'd love for you to share in the comments one thing that's coming up as your joy stopper, okay? Whoever is here on this workshop, I want a comment from you that says at least one thing that gets in the way of your joy. Some people just go, ooh, joy is for kids, not for adults. So Janice says the message that stops joy is coming from her. Yeah. And what is that message, Janice? I'd love to know what it is. Beth said productivity comes first. Oh yeah, Beth, I know that one well. I was raised, with strong work ethic, as a lot of us were. And it's just like, no, you do not get to enjoy until you have ticked off all the boxes. I still have to tell my mom, who I hope is watching this later, that it's you don't just do joy, especially if you're retired now, and she's just like, I got to get all these things done before I enjoy myself. No, just enjoy yourself first, and then you might just naturally want to get those things done, and you might add a little bit of joy to them. So Rochelle said just that joy gets stopped because she gets overwhelmed by the things she needs to do. So it's hard to connect and dip into joy when you're feeling overwhelmed. Overwhelmed is an energy that makes one feel like they're in danger. Like, if they don't get this done, it's do or die. Okay. And that's why, Rochelle, the whole idea of cultivating daily joy, everyday bite-sized joy, is going to be really important for you. And to have it as a practice, as a habit already established, so that when overwhelm comes, because what overwhelm does is it grabs your brain and it just pulls it yanks it in all sorts of different directions. And so when we have a lot of overwhelm in our life, we need to have really solid rooted practices that we can kind of grab onto in the midst of being spun around. We can go, whoa, oh, okay, right, I've got this to hang on to. Okay, right. I remember now. I remember who I am. I remember what's meaningful. I remember what's important. Okay. So yeah, so that's awesome. Thank you. Janice said that the thought that she tells herself is, the minute I may feel joy, I allow someone to take it away. So being so afraid of losing joy that you never allow it in the first place. Oh, isn't that is a pretty tragic thing, isn't it? And I know that, Janice, you say that you tell yourself this, but that message probably came from somewhere originally. And I just want everybody to kind of consider this. Were any of these messages that you have around joy, did any of them come from when you were little? Like, do you remember, observing your parents a certain way around joy, or other people that were meaningful in your life that had similar experiences around joy or messages around joy that you absorbed, that you sort of took on as your own? I think that's, just always an interesting thing to, to note, and be aware of, that often these things weren't even ours to begin with. So what I want you to do with this list right now is I want you to take the pen. I don't want you to be precious about it. You know it now, but you need to give a cue to your brain and your heart that it's time to let go. I want you to take that pen and I want you to scribble those out, because they may seem important and sometimes they're going to trick you into it, but they are not worth sacrificing a joyful life for, okay? They are not what is going to create this expansive energy that you need to have to be able to really come alive in this world and help this world move in the right direction. Okay, so scribble it out. And then I want you to rip it up. I want you to rip it up into the smallest little pieces you can. Rip it up, make a mess, have some joy as you rip it up. You could even stomp it out, do whatever you need to. Get that list ripped up, get those excuses just for this moment to be able to say, no, I reject these. No, this is not going to stop my joy anymore. Okay, out. Okay. So now that you've gotten, just again, giving yourself a little cue that it's time to let go of some of this junk, you have a little bit more space to move some joy into your life. So the next step is, of course, cultivating daily joy. Okay, just as I mentioned to Rochelle, we, often equate joy to these really sort of big moments, these really just obviously joyous moments. But the thing is, if you haven't been regularly cultivating those small joys, then it gets harder and harder to access the big joy. So let me tell you what I'm talking about here. So, have you been part of something that should be joyous? Like you got some really great news, or you went to this joyous sort of occasion, or you're on vacation or whatever, and you're not like feeling it. Like you're just like kind of faking it, and you're just like going, "Ah, this is great," but you're not feeling it. Maybe you're feeling numb, or you're feeling anxious. So, why that is because joy is like a muscle, okay? If you are not flexing it regularly, it's not going to work when the occasion is big, okay? If you're not flexing it in small ways, it's not going to show up in the big ways. So basically, if you are not finding a way to cultivate sort of everyday little joys, that muscle gets flabby and it doesn't respond anymore. Okay. And it's important to, to know this little thing that I tell myself a lot. How you live your days is inevitably how you live your life. Okay. So many of us say, oh, at some point when I've lost the weight, or I've taken care of, this issue, or I've finished this project, or the kids are grown, or I found a mate, or whatever, then I'll do joy. Okay. And that doesn't happen. Postponing joy doesn't work because there's no muscle. Okay. You haven't developed the muscle. So if you postpone joy, you will be inevitably postponing joy until you are dead. So I'm going to give you a very simple step around cultivating daily joy. And that is to add a joy item to your to-do list. So we all have to-do lists, I'm pretty sure, in some form or another. Some are just little scrap pieces of paper. Some are very elaborate spreadsheets. I know I don't know what I would do without my to-do list. It keeps me on track. But how many kind of delightful, awesome, like pleasurable things are on your to-do list? I'm looking at mine right now. Not so much. There is one though, because a practice of mine is that every day I put one thing that brings me joy onto my to-do list, and I put it up high as a priority. Okay? Because that to-do list for a lot of us is our lifeline. It's what we follow. And so let's use it for our advantage, for our joy advantage. And to be able to, at the beginning of the day, when you're just like firming up your to-do list, to add one thing that you know is going to feel expansive for you in that way. So The trick though with this is if you're not used to joy, the idea of coming up with a joy every day is overwhelming. You're like, I don't know, I'm not going to be able to do that. Forget it. So, the piece that has to go along with this is to create a small joys list. Okay, I have something I call the joy arsenal, which is like a list of everything that brings me joy, the big things, the little things. But I want to focus today on the little things, especially because we're in lockdown. So these are more accessible right now, and also there it's just where we start. It's the building blocks of joy, is these bite-sized small joys. So I want you to grab a new piece of paper, fresh piece of paper. All right, and i I want you to think about the little things that you could do in your day that would just bring you a little bit of joy. Okay, so, and again, it could be things that you do while doing other things. It could be things like playing a new album while you cook dinner. Taking that little bit of time to text with that bestie that you don't reach out to enough. Stopping to do some relaxing, delicious stretches, playing a video game that you just like love or you used to love, um, doing a mid-afternoon dance break. So I was playing some music as you guys were joining. I mean, have a list of those songs that just like make you feel wow, and stop in the middle of your day and dance. Just put one song on, and it's almost like it completely revamps your system. Your system goes, oh, okay, right. We're not in do or die mode. We're actually, we can relax a little bit. We can get expansive. That doesn't mean you're going to become useless. It actually means when you become more expansive that you're probably going to be able to think more clearly, be more creative, have more energy and momentum. Okay. It could be gardening, as who said who talked about gardening earlier? Sorry, that was Janice that was talking about gardening. And it could be your favorite podcast. It could be painting. It could be doing a hike. But something that, little things that you could pick out to do once a day. Like, not the same thing every day. You could choose something different every day. Okay, so I'm going to give you just a second to not a second, I'll give you a minute to be able to write down some small joys, and I'll give you a few more ideas as we go. Okay, I'll just put a little bit of music on while we do this, because a little bit of music is always nice. Oh, except a little bit of music doesn't want to go for me. All right, so here we go. So what brings you delight? What brings you pleasure? What brings you laughter? It could be particular beings or people. It could be particular activities. It could be places. It could be particular songs or movies or YouTube videos. Are there any poems or images or books that just you pick them up or you take a look and just transport you into a different state? So anything from wearing a hat to sharing your appreciation for someone. A Will Ferrell movie, it's one of mine. Making out with your sweetie. A really good sweet chai tea. Maybe on your small joy list, it could be making up silly stories about strangers you see. It could be reading one poem from your book of Rumi. It could be a video with cats or lambs or hedgehogs. Again, me. Okay. So I know that sharing joy, and I shouldn't be the only one sharing joy here, can be very transforming. So I'd really love if each of you could put one of your small joys into the comment box. I want to see, I want to hear. Bring me a little bit of joy by sharing. So, what is a small joy? And again, you may want to, on this small joy list, figure out ways to um, formalize these things. So, for example, if you're like, well, my friend Julie is one of my brings me joy. Well, then what's that bite-sized way that you can connect with Julie? Does that mean, like uh, doing a video call with Julie? Does that mean having a little text exchange? Does that mean writing an email to Julie and telling her how much you mean to her? She means to you. That would be a good email to write. I'd like to tell you about how much I mean to you. All right, I'm gonna just check out and see what folks are saying. Rochelle says listening to music. Rochelle, I want more. What songs? What artists are just bring you joy? What are like the absolute home runs for you as far as that goes? Um, all right, come on, folks. I want to see some more. I want to see what you're doing. I know that there's a lot of you watching that aren't, saying anything, but come on, let's make this a conversation. Put a little joy, a little small joy in the comment. So this is how it's going to work. Once you have your small joy list, then you are going to have that on hand, and every day when you're doing your to-do list, you're going to look at that joy list and you're going to think which one could I do today? Which one would be, feel great, feel good today? And some days you'll start off going, I don't have time for joy. I don't feel like joy, but this has got to be a practice. You've got to try this. Like basically, you've got to formalize this and do it as an experiment every day, or you're not going to know how this works for you. Okay. So it's got to be something you commit to, even just for the next week, for 7 days, to add a small joy to your to-do list. And so that, how that's going to look, like, think about how that's going to look. That's going to be like, pick up groceries, submit the report, cuddle my cat in Sunbeam, go to that committee meeting. Great to-do list. Or it could be write that email blast, meet with Sarah's teacher, walk barefoot in the park, pay the hydro bill. Why are our joys not in there? Why wouldn't they be in there? If we look back on our life, at the end of our life and we're in the rocking chair, we're going to want to look back and go, wow, that was a joyful life. Not that was a productive life. Again, as change makers, it's so very important that we're doing the work, we're creating the projects, the initiatives that are going to move the needle in this world. Absolutely. But we also need to live a life that feels good. Okay. We also need to be able to get to the end of our life and feel like, oh, that was a life well lived in so many ways, in terms of purpose and in terms of how it felt. Okay. So I'm going to go back. We've got a few more entries into the small joys list. Oh, Rochelle, the oldies and Bon Jovi. That's what I'm talking about. So I would recommend having a little joy list and putting some of those on the joy list so it's nice and easy. Again, whenever as change makers, we're overwhelmed so much by all there is to do. So you have to make things easy. You have to make them like reachable when you're sort of in a scattered place. Okay. Janice said kayaking, and you have easy access to kayaking, Janice. Like that's something you could just like decide to do, like as a little portion of your day. You're right near water. That would be amazing. Beth said hugging Oliver the dog. Yes, we have these. Like a lot of us have these built-in joy machines. Either in the form of human kids or awesome partners or friends or our fur kids, these people and beings who are just radiate joy. That joy is so natural to them, being present, being fulfilled. There's nothing like a cat purring is just pure joy. So let that purr kind of take you over too. All right. So that is, I would really love to see that be a practice that you try for at least 1 week. And you better make sure that little item is ticked off at the end of your day. Okay. And if it's not ticked off at the end of the day, you go back to that list before the end of the day and you choose something smaller and easier so that at least you can say, I did one joy today. Okay. I did one joy today. And the one other caveat to this is you need to do this joy item, no guilt. Okay. It can't be, oh, I'm going to do this, but I shouldn't, because that takes all the juice out of it. It takes all of the healing properties out of it. So it's got to be guilt free, full on, like, yes, this is a practice that is good for me, healthy for me, and my mission. It is integral. Okay. The another little tool that I find is really helpful is to bring joy to the ordinary. So it's wonderful to add more joyful activities to our life, but we still have to go to work. We still have bills to pay, people to take care of. So we also need to find ways to bring joy to the things we're already doing that might feel a little bit mundane or distressing. So the magic question that you are going to apply, especially to something that is feeling pretty joyless, is how can I bring joy to this meeting, this particularly prickly meeting, or cleaning the house, or helping the kids with homework, or this walk, or this report I'm doing? How can I bring more joy to this? Okay. And to bring just a little twist of joy to whatever it is you're doing, whoever you're doing it with, wherever you are doing it. So, for example, if you've got a campaign and you've got 1,000 envelopes to stuff, you better put on like some amazing music and rock out while you're doing it, while you're licking in beat with the music. Um, if you've got a particularly prickly meeting that you're going into, maybe just start it off by with an appreciation, of everybody go around the circle, whether that's in person or online. Go around and tell an appreciation that you have about working on this project or with this group. With animal justice, when we do our board meetings or our strategy meetings, we do that. It's a really lovely thing, and just a little appreciation for what is good, what is going right, especially when you're in the midst of some battles that are really big and really hard and long. That's an important little piece. You could if you have to work on the weekend, okay, you're like, I've got to get this project done. Well, take that laptop and go work under a tree. Okay, take it outside, do something to shake it up, or get yourself a nice lineup of beautiful teas that you can sample throughout the weekend. Okay, and just like do like this like tea sampler. If you're having a tense discussion with your partner, I mean, ask the question, how can I bring some joy to this? And that argument just might morph into a tickle fight, or at the very least, you might be able to look into your partner's eyes and just see them for a second and feel a bit of tenderness, and it could take things in a very different direction. And as I mentioned, joy is important even in really dark times. Again, not advocating that you ignore or deny emotions like sorrow or anger, anguish, fear. It's imperative to honor those states and to give ourselves time to truly experience them. But if in these dark places we can also bring little ribbons of humor or pleasure to just crack open some spaces in these heavier places, the healing will happen faster. Okay, we'll be able to move through to a more expansive, more productive place much faster. Okay, last piece here. I'm just going to go back to see. Okay, last little piece here. A little tool I want to bring to you is a kind of a fun one, and I'd actually like you to try this today. And I call it embodying joy. So whatever emotion we want to experience in our life, it needs to start in the body. Okay. The way we hold our body sends such powerful cues to our brain about what we should be feeling. Remember right at the beginning how we did this we opened up our arms and I said like the basically the brain thinks as soon as we do that motion that we're safe, we're opening up to abundance, that things are good. Okay. We're wired in that way. So if you want more delight in your life, line up your body to be in in a stature of more delight. Okay, change your body physiology. This is just a kind of again a really cool little body hack for you. So for example, if you're like, okay, yeah, today I am going to embody joy. So, first of all, start off by looking in the mirror and just notice, what does joy look like on you? Okay, what does it look like on you? Are your shoulders back? Is your chest out a little bit more? Is there just kind of a little bit of a mischievous sparkle in your eyes, or a little bit of a smile? Are you really loose if you're joyful? Are you, notice how you walk. Is there a spring in your step, or do you go really slowly and just really sort of savor every step? How do you talk when you're in a place of joy? Or does your tone change? Do your words change? Is there more laughter? Do you clap your hands in reaction to things? Are you just more springy in general? So choose a form of joy today that you can embody. So it doesn't have to just be joy. It could be a different word. It could be exuberance. It could be sparkling. It could be playful. Playfulness is such an awesome form of joy. So choose a joy quality. Go to the mirror, feel it out in your body, and then see if you can, sit in that today. If you can, I know a lot of us aren't going out and doing stuff and being around people, but if you happen to go grocery shopping, take it grocery shopping. If you go outside to get your mail and you see your neighbor, be in that energy. When you're writing your next email, sitting, making dinner, being on a video call, how can you embody that joy? Okay, I hope I'm embodying that joy for you today, and that's the whole idea. So another thing I would do with this is I would write your word on your hand. Okay, and so every time you see that today, you're going to go, oh right, adjust the body to be in playfulness, or joy, or pleasure, or enthusiasm. So even right now, even just right now, I want you to just adjust how you're sitting as you're watching. Okay. I just want you to adjust your body to what joy feels like in your body. You've all experienced joy. You have some experience with it, even if it's not, there every day. What does it feel like in your body? How would your body respond to some joy? All right. So the last thing that I want to do is I'm a woman of action, as anybody knows me. I like to give homework. And so I want you to choose today one thing that you are going to do. And so consider this your to do today that you're going to add to your to do list. Okay. I know it's a little bit later in the day already, but hey, I'm sure you can fit it in. I would like for you to choose one thing from your small joy list that you're committing to, that you're going to put in that comment box right now. I want to see it in the comment box, and what you're committing to. And those that share your commitment, it tends to actually happen. Okay. It's accountability factor. So let's see in that comment what your joy is. I'm going to come back to that in a second. There's always a like 20 to 30-second delay. And while I'm waiting for those, I want to tell you about one other piece that you can look into to help you with this sort of expanding of your energy as a change maker. And that is my Power Tools for Changemakers program. It's a free little 5-part series. And it's free, but I put a little bit of work into it because I really wanted to take you through and give you 5 different sections of things as a change maker that you could cultivate to make you much more powerful and effective. So it's everything from, well, let me see here. I'm going to put this up here. It is everything from overwhelm busting tools Okay, we talked a lot about overwhelm today, so this I have a whole video about tools that you can use in order to relieve some of that overwhelm, to get a little bit more space in your life. The video two is about productivity tools. So how can you produce much more consistently and much more effectively? And so lots of tips and tools there. Again, for those that are trying to make a difference in the world. I have a whole module on processing pain. So again, it's hard to feel joy if you're just holding on to so much pain. Okay, pain can really paralyze us when we're trying to make a difference in the world. So I give you really tangible tools for how do you deal with pain, how do you work pain through and out in order to be able to be much more strong and clear-headed for your mission. I do a section on bridge building, so how to be more persuasive and effective in connecting and influencing and inspiring. And I also do a module about self-fuel tools, so creating a daily practice that will keep you grounded and strong, healthy, vibrant, and really focused. Okay, so all you need to do, there's a little here, I'm going to put the link into the comments so that you have it. I would love for you to join me for this little course. It's basically you sign up for it, you'll get the first module right away, and then you'll get each module every 2 days, just to give you a little bit of time to kind of absorb and put into practice some of the things that you learn. So that's my power tools for change makers. All right, I am going back and I am seeing what a couple of the small joys are that people have shared. If you haven't shared already, I'd like to know what you're committing to today to be able to cultivate a little joy. Which item off of your small joy list are you committing to today? So Beth said she's ordering a book of poems. Oh, share more. Is it a particular book, Beth? Rochelle said she'll try a new thing, comedian, maybe a podcast. So you're gonna look up for like a funny podcast, and so find yourself something that makes you laugh and dive into it. Okay, and no reservations, no guilt about it. You just keep reminding yourself, right? Kimberly told me that this is going to serve not only me, but my mission. Okay. It is going to help me, go into the state that is most needed in this world right now. And that is one of expansiveness, of ease, of love, all of these things that this aching world needs right now. All right. So, folks, thank you so much for joining me for our weekly workshop. As per usual, I'm here Thursdays at 1 p.m. Next week, I think, I'm not absolutely sure what I'm doing next week, but I think I'm going to have some guests on next week talking about how they have adjusted what they're doing as change makers to be able to stay sort of vibrant and relevant in these sort of ever-changing times. And things are really changing quickly. Like lockdown's been lifted in different parts, and we may have rolling lockdowns, all that sort of thing. So really trying to get some ideas on how to navigate in this sort of shifting landscape that we could be in for a very long time. I'm gonna just I see one. Oh, I see Chris. You're very welcome. Thank you for joining us. Janice said her joy item today is going to be to genuinely compliment and encourage people at work. Seeing others shine brings me joy. Okay, so let's formalize that, Janice. I'm gonna, choose. Are you gonna compliment one person, 3 people, or do you know who it is you're gonna do it? Make it formal, and so the more sort of you formalize it, the more likely it's going to happen. All right. If you want to get live notifications to know when my next live workshops happen, you can click the little bell or the downward facing arrow in the top right hand corner of this live video post, and choose turn on notifications, and it'll give you a little notification when I go on. All right, folks, I'm going to end with just a wonderful little passage from Ralph Waldo Emerson that I love. Allow yourself to trust joy and embrace it. You will find you dance with everything. All right. Thank you so much for joining. And I'd like to dance you out here. Let's get a little bit of music on. This is a song that brings me some joy. Oh, yeah. Oldie but a goodie. All right. Sending you so much love and joy. Can't wait to see how you cultivate it. Bye, guys.